Welcome in, everybody, to Fantasy Pros. This is the Fantasy Football Podcast. It is me, Joey P, Joe Pisapia, and finally, we did it. We're here. It's Thanksgiving, and that means only one thing. It's stuffing and cuffing season. That's right, baby. Pat Fitzmaurice, Dbro, Derek Brown, the King of Bros, are here to help you get all of the bench depth you need, not just for Week 14 by Apocalypse coming up. We're trying to get ahead of that, but we're also looking ahead to the fantasy playoffs, make sure we have insurance policies all set up. And it was a very wacky and wild Sunday of football. The only thing more special than the special teams in the Washington Cowboys game was probably the Saquon Barkley performance. Pat Fitzmaurice, MVP always goes to a quarterback. I'm sick and tired of it. The good story here is Saquon Barkley getting a new lease on life and taking this Philadelphia Eagles team out of the doldrums and disappointments of last year and making them a 9-2 juggernaut right now. Can we please start talking about Saquon Barkley as MVP? I know he's not going to win, but I just want to talk about it.
Well, Joe, you're not the only one who's got a Saquon MVP award on your mind, because the odds for Saquon to win the MVP have shrunk dramatically.
You're the guy who writes around here. You tell me.
Overnight, yeah. I think they have dropped from like something like plus 6,000 to plus 600. So people are seriously considering him as a candidate, and with good reason. I mean, what an emphatic performance against the Rams yesterday. And by the way, Joe, yes, there was at least one team with Saquon that is going to lose in fantasy. Yes, right here. Thank you.
You got it. Nice.
Thank you.
Whoa.
Everyone else with an absolute dud of a game, except for Saquon, which probably prevented me from some sort of record low performance in that league.
Yeah, it's a crazy performance. You got Taysom Hill's crazy week, right? And then Saquon Barkley after this week. Really incredible stuff. Dbro, this is also that time of year, too, where everybody gets busy and they forget. They're like, oh, yeah, there's 3 games on Thanksgiving and everyone's just caught up in the holidays. So it's just like a friendly reminder, like a PSA to everybody too. Make sure you get your waiver claims in. Make sure you get all your lineup situated right, because this is a very important time. You might be able to pick up a victory here in week 13 and stay relevant. Who knows what happens week 14 with so many teams on a bye? Like, this is actually a crucial week to you staying alive and in the playoff hunt.
Absolutely. You should be using the multi-league assistant. It's the only way to sit here and do that while you're also shopping for Thanksgiving stuff.
Nice. While you're waiting on the checkout line. I like how I set you up for that. That was really good. All right. Before we get going, it is the season of giving. So we're going to give away some free stuff. Trophy Smack, large fantasy football wall smack. We got another one to give away. And the winner today is Sky Pank. That's right. Sky Pank. Fantastic name. I love this name. Please get in touch with us over at customer support mailbag@fantasypros.com. Again, hit us up, sky@mailbag@fantasypros.com. with your mailing address, your proof of subscription to the Fantasy Pros YouTube channel. We'll get in touch with you right away and get it all shipped out to you again. Sky Pank, congratulations, you are the big winner. And, of course, when one prize leaves, another one enters the Thunderdome here. And Trophy Smack's latest giveaway here on the Fantasy Pros, you're not going to want to miss this one. It's the Fantasy Football Loser Toilet Seat Giveaway. Now, this is truly special. So the full-size authentic toilet seat, that's right, it's full size. So, I mean, I guess you can replace the one in your house. I don't know if your significant other is going to like that, but it's pretty amazing. It even says, it's got like bathroom wall graffiti. It says Sucktown Hall of Shame on it, right there etched in it. So that is pretty spectacular. I think every home should have one. I think the next time, you have to be stuck watching those HGTV shows, you should look at this as an option instead when you're remaking your home, right, Dbro?
I was going to ask. I mean, I know you personally are doing a bathroom reno.
Well, it was redone.
Did you add that?
I didn't, and it's my folly. It's a bad job by me.
That should go in the guest bathroom. I will be expecting that when I come up for Flex League.
Well, I'm gonna put it right up there for you, especially when I beat you in the first round of Flex after 20.
Yeah, when you don't make the playoffs. Yeah, we'll see.
What are you talking about, bro? I'm gonna be right there. I'm gonna be the 4 seed, right waiting for you.
You keep
the full size
shade.
toilet seat can be yours from our good friends over at Trophy Smack right now. How do you enter? All you do is subscribe to the Fantasy Pros YouTube channel. You drop a comment below and you ring the bell till it goes ding for notifications, and you will be the next winner of this fantasy football loser toilet seat giveaway. This is pretty hilarious right there. I would put it over somebody's neck and make them take a picture of it at next year's draft. That's what you do. All right. Normally we start the show off with the waiver wire ad of the week. However, there isn't one. It just isn't. There isn't somebody that just stands out and saying, okay, this is the clear cut number one guy, or the guy in every league that, you should probably be aggressive on. It just doesn't happen. So instead, we're going to talk about 2 running back situations. The first is Ameer Abdullah, who is 31% rostered here. Zamir White was not playing. Madison was not playing. Gardner Minshew is not going to be playing the rest of the season, so they're going to be running the football. So Ameer Abdullah, 31% rostered on sleeper leagues, still readily available in 70% of leagues. And then the Washington Commanders had a lot of issues here. Brian Robinson got hurt early in that game. He did walk off on his own accord, but again, we're waiting for more information on that. And then at the very end of the game, you had the Austin Eckler concussion. So Jeremy McNichols, who is 1% rostered right now, somebody's got him. It's probably Pat. But Pat, I'm going to start with you on these two running backs because this is probably your short-term streaming running back situation. I know everybody's playing this week, so that's less of an issue. But at the same time, both of the scenarios we've laid out here for some of the running backs ahead of these guys could be more long-term situations. So McNichols, Abdullah, how do you rank them? How do you approach them? What's your take on them for week 13?
Yeah, so with Abdullah, the Raiders play the Chiefs this week. I kind of suspect we're not going to see either Alexander Madison or Zamir White again this week, and we only got like a little cameo appearance from Sincere McCormick as the complimentary back to Ameer Abdullah for the Raiders yesterday. So we know it's really hard to run against the Chiefs, so not a great matchup. And I'm probably, when I do rankings today, I imagine I will have Ameer Abdullah in like mid-range RB2 territory, somewhere around RB30 or 31, something like that. But Abdullah is a pass catching back, so he does have more than one path to a decent fantasy performance. Him versus McNichols, I guess, kind of depends on the status of Brian Robinson. We can be pretty sure we're not going to see Austin Eckler after the hit he took and the concussion he sustained this week.
Yeah.
More of a question with Brian Robinson. And man, when I saw what that injury looked like, Joe, I've got a lot of Brian Robinson teams. I was making plans like, what am I going to do at running back without him? I was like delighted to hear that he was back in the game because I thought maybe his season was over when I saw that injury.
There, but then was very limited there.
Yeah,
so
he was. So wouldn't surprise me if he missed a week. If he does, we know that Washington will have Chris Rodriguez active regardless of Brian Robinson's status. He will be the third running back, but clearly Jeremy McNichols is ahead of Chris Rodriguez on the Commanders depth chart. So yeah, McNichols is going to get some work this week. Then again, not a great matchup for him either against the Titans, who just held Joe Mixon to 22 rushing yards on 14 carries. So not great matchups for either guy. I think they're playable if you're in a pinch, but yeah, whether I would take McNichols over Ameer Abdullah really depends on Robinson. If he's playing, I would rather have Abdullah. If Robinson is out, I think I'd rather have McNichols.
Yeah, I think a lot of this too is looking ahead more too, and how long some of these guys might be missing some time. But Dbro, also known as Insincere McCormick around these parts, Dbro, could you tell me your take on these two guys too? I know Pat was bringing up obviously that just because they're getting playing time doesn't necessarily mean that they're getting more better matchups here. They're worth playing, but we do have to be aware of the presence and potentially them playing beyond just week 13 based upon some of the injuries that are going on here.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, these guys are the Spider-Man gift, man. Like, can we just talk about like the fact that Ameer Abdullah is Jeremy McNichols and Jeremy McNichols is Ameer Abdullah? Like, both these guys are going to be workhorses, considering the injuries to the depth chart around them. And I know that looking at Ameer Abdullah, like, okay, the 13 touches, 70 total yards, that's okay. The touchdown really saved him yesterday. But I don't want it to get lost in the sauce. He played 90% of the snaps. He was the clear bell cow. So, like, that type of workload, we always say volume is king in fantasy. That's going to propel him through bad matchups as long as he has the starter's chair. And so him and McNichols, neither one of these guys have good matchups this week. Even if you want to project it out, say Austin Eckler, because this is what, his second concussion of the year, guys? Like, what if he misses multiple weeks?
Yeah.
So if that's the case, I actually prefer, if you're looking at not just this week, but like more of a 2 to 3 week span, I actually prefer McNichols over Abdullah because of that. Because after Tennessee, they do get the Saints, and we know that you can run on the Saints.
Yeah, it's funny. It's funny. We have like opposite takes on this. I look ahead and I see Tennessee for Washington coming up, and then the bye week, and then you're in the playoffs already. So although like New Orleans is, floating around there for Washington, McNichols is the guy that I'm just kind of like, all right, like I just don't know how useful he's going to be to chase him in that 1 week scenario. I mean, look, some teams have that scenario right now where they are in a bad spot and you have to make sure you get these running backs. But there's also a bunch of running backs I want to get to that people still have yet to push enough onto their rosters. And as I alluded to at the top of the show, these are the guys we want to talk about. Before we do, NFL season continues to roll along and the contenders are separating from the pack. The one thing that hasn't changed all season, it's DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. It's the number one place to bet touchdowns. So if you want to make some money this holiday season to go spend it all on presents for your family, well, score big with DraftKings Sportsbook, the number one place to bet touchdowns. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use the promo code FantasyPros. That's FantasyPros. For new customers, you get 150 in bonus bets if your bet wins when you bet just $5 only on DraftKings. The crown is yours. Let's crown some of these guys. Again, all of them here, backup running backs, all of them under 50% rostered right now on Sleeper and on Yahoo as well. So Zach Charbonnet, 48%. I'm just going to run down them. Tank Bigsby, 44%. Tajay Spears, again, still injury issues with him, 43%. Tyler Algier has dropped down to 39%, probably because of this past week having to be the bye. Roshan Johnson, 38%. Trey Benson, 35%. Gus Edwards, 28%. Blake Corum, 21%. And Ray Davis, 21%. Dbro, this is the list of guys here. Again, from Charbonnet all the way to Davis, we just went through them. In your opinion, give me the one or two that you think have the best opportunity to really be fantasy relevant in the playoffs should tragedy befall the guy in front of them in terms of injury. They would be thrust into that role and would actually excel and help you win that championship.
I think it's a 3-pack of guys for me, and the order is Tyler Algier, Trey Benson, and Zach Charbonnet. And looking at all three of those guys' situations, and if anything happens to the starter, I don't think we have any questions about all three of those guys probably being the bell cow workload. Maybe a few questions in Arizona. So those are the three guys that I'm looking at this entire group that I would be looking to roster, with Tyler Algier being the one. Just because, look, I know Bijan has been a bell cow, but if anything were to happen to him, nobody's taking any work from Tyler Algier away.
Right.
And for deeper leagues, there's only one other guy that I want to bring up here, Joey, for deep leagues. If he's out there, because we saw the Buccaneers backfield this last week, Sean Tucker had a very prominent role. If he's out there like in a 14-teamer, I'd like to throw him on into this list too.
I hate doing this, but I agree with Dbro, Pat. Are those the same three guys for you?
It is. It is. Benson, Algier, and Charbonnet. Yeah, those are the three guys I kind of drilled down on too. And obviously, like if Kyron Williams got hurt in week 13, Blake Corum heads to the front of the list. And any of these guys really in an injury, but like those are the guys who would clearly be extremely valuable if anything happened to the starter.
All right. Who would be the number one on your list? I mean, Dbro was talking about Algier. I kind of find the same way because I've seen it before. I've seen it with this team. I've seen it with, this offensive line. You've seen it in season, him have some really successful games when he's been given carries.
Yeah, I think Algier is probably the guy who makes the most sense.
Okay.
We know he's got run catch versatility. I'm intrigued by Benson just because the Cardinals have been pretty run heavy this year. And like Connor's role, Benson has come on. At first, it seemed like he wasn't even number 2 early in the season when they were playing Amari DiMercato ahead of him, but it seems like he has gained favor with that organization in recent weeks and now looks like a pretty appealing and sort of a must handcuff if you have James Conner, who's had injury issues in the past.
It's funny too, because Algier, because of this week's bye, people probably had to make hard decisions. I need more streamers. I need guys to play this week because of the buys. And Algier got dropped in a lot of leagues this week. I'm just looking at the data right now. So he's available right now in 60% of leagues. So make sure you add him again, just for insurance policy. And if you have Bijan, you definitely need Algier for sure. One guy I want to talk about because the Denver Broncos backfield is constantly in flux. Javonte Williams. I know we want all the running backs we have. I'm not asking this question because I think necessarily the answer is yes, but I think it's a question a lot of fantasy managers are asking themselves. So I want to hear your take on it. Pat, should people be dropping Javonte Williams?
It kind of depends on the texture of the league. Like I know Dbro wants to say an unconditional yes, but we were
he sure does. I mean, it can't stop him from nodding. He's like that kid who's been told, you can't answer the question until the question's been asked. And he's just like right now raising his hand saying, ooh, 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 over and over again.
Here's the thing. We were pretty close to dropping Javonte like a month or more ago, and he sort of roared back to life. I think it was that game against the Saints that sort of reinvigorated his fantasy value. So I wouldn't rule out a revival. It's just really hard to parse this backfield right now. if you have to, you have to. But like, I'm not rushing out to spite drop him if I don't have a better move to make. And as thin as waivers are this week, Joe, I don't know if there's a better move to make.
Okay. Dbro, I'm fascinated to hear your thoughts because I really don't know which way you're going to go.
I think you drop him. And the question is simple for me, guys. When would you ever feel good about putting Javonte Williams in your lineup at this point of the season? Never. Like, legit, never. Like, could he pay off as a dice roll? Sure. Is he more likely probably going to face plant and hurt your team? More likely. So, like, in these weeks when we're trying to make the playoffs, or you're in the playoffs, upcoming weeks, I would have no faith in playing Javonte Williams. So, give me a name. Like, I'll drop Javonte Williams for one of the names off the handcuff list. Like, I would rather, pay for the lottery ticket as opposed to being like, well, I got this other guy on my roster and he's basically just holding up a spot and I don't want to play him. If I do play him, it's just going to blow up in my face. So to me, why keep a guy like that on your roster? Like, I will pick a flex-worthy wide receiver to roster at the end of my bench over Javonte Williams or one of these high-end handcuffs.
All right. So there you go. Javonte Williams could be dropped in your league. You're allowed, according to Derek Brown. So there you go. You got it right there. You get the stamp right on that transaction. All right, before we get to the wide receivers, it is gift-giving season, everybody. And a great, you're tired of getting people the same things. How many, cheese boards you're going to buy somebody? How many, blankets can you buy somebody? All these things. Give something different this year. How about the gift of an experience? Tickets to an NFL game, tickets to a college football playoff game, tickets to a concert or to a comedy show. The best way to do that, of course, we all know, is through the Game Time app. So if you haven't already, download the Game Time app and start thinking outside the box here and give tickets away to someone's favorite team. I'm sure there's a lot of Giants and Jets tickets available. You could go out and get a bunch of them right now, everybody, and maybe if you don't like somebody, that's the equivalent of Cole is giving them Jets tickets, perhaps, or Giants tickets. I don't know. It's possible. But no matter what the event is, Game Time has got you covered. So they're the best way to get the best deals. You can see your seats. The curated deals are made easier to find. You get the best price, the best tickets, none of those nonsense fees. It's the all-in pricing, which is also something that really irritates people when it comes to tickets. So take the guesswork out of buying each ticket with the Game Time picks. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use that promo code FANTASYPROS. That's one word, FantasyPros, for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem the promo code FANTASYPROS, FANTASYPROS, for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. What time is it? It's game time. I love that I have to spell it out as if Fantasy Pros is hard to spell. I always think that's
think, a real quick question, guys, do you think like giving your kids clothes is probably the equivalent of giving them Giants or Jets tickets right now?
I don't know. I think I'd rather have the socks.
Like the same reaction, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, like
the socks will keep you warm in the winter. The Jets will not. The Jets will leave you cold and outside in the freezing just misery. All right, let's get to the wide receivers because we got a lot of guys to get through on this list too. I don't know. I'm going to do it because it's fun.
Here we go.
So,
go ahead.
Every week,
here we go.
A touchdown. Why aren't we adding Nick Westbrook-Ikhine? Well, everybody agrees with you, 21% roster, but I had to add him in a league because I was a little desperate, and I did. And I'm glad I did because, again, he had another touchdown. I had to play him in the situation I was in. So I know we're threading the needle every single week with, I get it. And the other guy, which we did talk about yesterday, or should I say last week, pardon me, Devaughn Vele, 13% roster. Now, Dbro, Vele to me, I think is a little bit more intriguing. The Denver Broncos are a playoff team, period. I was telling everybody on Sunday, bet the yes to make the playoffs because it's minus 120 in a lot of spots. It's probably going to be the best number you're going to find on them. And guess what? It's gone. It's gone. Just like in South Park when I say, and it's gone. Same thing. So these two guys, I know you're going to tell me the same thing about NWI. That's fine. I'm NWI.
I love that you've gone with the NWI. Like, I love that you've made that transition. I love that for you. I do.
But look,
I do.
I get it. It's threading the needle. But you know what, man?
Yeah.
He's sewing up touchdowns every week. Boom. Metaphor made. Give me your take on these two guys.
NWI, dude. 6 touchdowns in his last 7 games. And
Come on, bro.
he's only eclipsed. He has eclipsed 55 receiving yards once in that time. Yes, he is threading the needle. He is the needle.
Like Chris Carter. He just catches touchdowns, baby. That's what he does.
I mean, at this point, sure, ride the lightning. Like, I don't know what else to tell people. Like, I mean, it's one of those things, like, he can't keep possibly doing this, right? And then he keeps doing it. Like, I don't know what else to say at this point, because I keep poo-pooing, and I'm like, he keeps scoring touchdowns, and I concede, Joey.
Dbro,
I concede on it.
He gets Washington, Jacksonville, Cincinnati, Indianapolis, and Jacksonville the next couple
That's
games.
a good point.
Pat, I mean, you talk about riding the lightning. I mean, this is like a lightning thief right here.
So, yeah, I think you just hit on the key thing, Joe, that he has a week 14 matchup with the Jaguars in a 6-team bye week. So, yeah, I mean, like, it would be irresponsible of us, I think, to tell you, like, to eagerly go and pick up Nick Westbrook-Ikhine, because, Joe, he scored a touchdown on 20% of his targets, not catches.
Targets. Ridiculous number.
He has 30 targets in the season and 6 touchdowns. So
I know it's absurd. I get it.
I mean, the thing is, like, everything says that this is not sustainable, what he's doing, and yet he has sustained it for almost 2 months. So
it's insane.
But if you pick him up, you're picking him up targeting that Jacksonville game in week 14 when there are 6 teams on bye. And if you're going to lose like more than one wide receiver in your starting lineup, it could actually be a sensible move. I like Vele too. I mean, he's interesting. It's been kind of a mishmash in their wide receiver core behind Cortland Sutton all year, like some little Jordan Humphrey, some Troy Franklin, some Marvin Mims. But like Vele seems like he's stepped up. He was second behind Sutton in snaps, routes run, targets yesterday. 7th round rookie, 6'5". I know he only has 1 touchdown right now, but at 6'5", he's got to be a pretty inviting end zone target. And on my to-do list for today, Joe, I have to look up why Devaughn Vele is about to turn 27 and was in this year's NFL draft. He turns 27 on December 12th. I have to go find out why that is.
Oh, I'm sensing like an Unsolved Mysteries episode of Fantasy Pros with Pat Fitzmaurice in a trench coat outside of an alley.
I noticed this at like midnight last night, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to dig into this tomorrow.
Yeah, seriously. I also love ironic nicknames like Little Jordan Humphrey, who's 6'4", 225. Like, I like, where's Big Jordan Humphrey? If that's Little Jordan Humphrey, that's what I want to know. All right, Panthers wide receiver. So the Panthers took the Chiefs to their limit and then won 2 of their previous 3 games. So they're playing better football. I mean, is it great? No. Is it improved? Yes. The bar, however, was very low. Xavier Legette, 48% rostered. Adam Thielen, 44% rostered. So that jumped up quite a bit. Pat, any love for either of these Panthers guys? You can throw Coker in this mix too. Again, just want to rehash all of that. I know we've talked about the guys a lot, but now Thielen's in this mix too. So what you saw yesterday, how does that hash out with what the wide receiver group looks like rest of season?
Yeah, so I'm not going to throw Coker in this mix because they deactivated Coker ahead of Thielen's return, which is as interesting and as promising as Coker was. They cleared the decks for Adam Thielen to come back and be the slot.
Well, he was also hurt. He had a quad injury in the late of the week. So
okay, so yeah, I mean that was I didn't realize like he was possibly on the wrong side of questionable. So I mean Thielen, he's 34. But we should probably remember that going into Thanksgiving week a year ago, Adam Thielen was wide receiver 10 in PPR scoring, and he was averaging 7.6 catches a game at this time a year ago. So he is obviously like a security blanket for Bryce Young, and maybe he could be that again down the stretch. And he gets the Buccaneers this week, which is a pretty good matchup for wide receivers. So I like him, I think, just a little more than Xavier Legette, who's really interesting. I mean, an athletic marvel and a guy I'm going to be interested in drafting next year. But, had a decent game against the Chiefs, who are tough on outside receivers. So he's had at least 3 catches in 4 straight games. So in deep leagues, maybe he's playable this week, but I'm a little more interested in Thielen.
Well, you know how whenever the players, the teams are eliminated for the playoffs, they'll get, certain players on commentary on the desks and things like that. I want Jameis Winston and Xavier Legette together breaking down games. That's all I want for Christmas this year. I'd love to hear those 2 guys talking about the games. I think it would just be incredibly entertaining.
All I heard is you don't get enough Southern drawl here.
I don't get enough Southern drawl with you.
No?
I just need a little bit more country. I'm too rock and roll. Dbro, let's get your take here on these Carolina Panthers guys too real quick. Do you think Coker, when healthy, gets back in this mix, or you think now Thielen's back, we're going to play Thielen, let him kind of maybe, I mean, this could be the end of Thielen's career too. This could be the, hey, go out there And I get that from an organizational standpoint too. He had a really good year for you last year. He's probably a guy that's very beloved in the NFL period by his teammates. I could see that being the case and just kind of running it out there for him.
Yeah, I mean, I think that this wide receiver room kind of dissolves into being a mess. I don't think so. Jalen Coker popped up with the quad injury on Friday, so I don't think he plays this week. So I think he's going to be out at least another week. Considering the late week ad. So I think this is going to be Thielen, Xavier Legette, and I want to bring another name up in there. We got to talk about David Moore. I mean, last week when you earn a 28% target share, you lead the team in receiving yards and score a touchdown. Like, he's a guy that I honestly want to lead off the conversation. If people are looking for a play this week, I think it's David Moore. Now, if you're looking for the next few weeks upcoming, then I lean more in Xavier Legette or Adam Thielen. Honestly, it's probably Adam Thielen, because the thing about Xavier Legette that I want to point out to people is that, yeah, like, he's an awesome talent. Yes, he was a first-round pick. How many different iterations, like, do we see this offense where guys are out targeting him on a weekly basis? Like, we've had weeks where Jalen Coker has earned a 28% target share. Now we just saw it from David Moore. What are we going to see from Adam Thielen if he has the slot role going forward? Xavier Legette's been in this, like, 15 to 18, maybe 20% target range. Like, he's just not earning a ton of targets. So, like, he's been saved by touchdowns in a lot of different weeks. So my ordering for these guys, honestly, right now, assuming Coker is out, Thielen takes over that slot role and doesn't let it go, it's probably David Moore for this week. The next 2 to 3 weeks, it's Thielen, and then it's Legette.
All right, there you go. I think the Legette thing too is more of an indictment on Bryce Young too, because
it can be, yeah.
That, sometimes the the willingness to throw the ball downfield, the wilillingness to,
or the arm strength,
the arm strength, the willingness, the ability to read the defense properly, all of those things. I think that might be more on him. Some other guys coming off a bye, Marquez Valdez-Scantling, a guy we talked about in the last couple of weeks. So he's going to be back, still just 36% rostered. So you want to talk about guys threading the needle with touchdowns. I mean, MVS is another one too. So Nick Westbrook-Ikhine, MVS in standard leagues. I mean, these guys should be scooped up though, because they're scoring touchdowns right now. And you just keep riding the wave as long as you can. But another guy who might be floating out there. Now, he's rostered in 61% of sleeper leagues, but just 47% of Yahoo leagues is Keon Coleman. So a lot of this has to do with health, Derek. And we're going to find out this week. It's a huge matchup here for the Buffalo Bills. So let's talk about Keon Coleman and if he returns healthy this week, how he could be a fantasy boom potentially.
Yeah, I mean, if he returns this week, I mean, he's the top name on any list, or he should be, because considering the ascending role for Buffalo and Amari Cooper still not 100%. So what do we see for the next, like, if he gets hit wrong, is he out for a few weeks and stuff? So I think Keon is a definite priority pickup. And I mean, honestly, like, Dalton Kincaid, we hadn't even mentioned his name on the show yet. Like, Dalton Kincaid's not fully healthy. We don't know when he's going to be back. Maybe it's this coming week. Maybe it's not. So if Keon can come back healthy, like, could he be the number one moving forward, considering everybody else on this roster is kind of banged up? Possible.
Okay. Keon Coleman, Pat, any thoughts on him? Again, I know in sleeper leagues, obviously highly rostered still, but a lot more dynasty leagues on there too. So that's probably part of that roster percentage. So in redraft, he might be floating around and people might not even realize it.
Yeah, the most talented of the receivers we're going to talk about today by far. I still don't know why the Panthers drafted Xavier Legette ahead of Keon Coleman. That was strange to me. And we were starting to see it before Coleman's injury. In weeks 7 and 8, Coleman had 9 catches for 195 yards and a touchdown on 14 targets. Looked like a rising star. And it took him a little while to start to get it, but he was starting to get it. And we would hope the wrist injury wouldn't keep him out too long. It didn't keep his teammate Amari Cooper out for very long. I kind of think he's going to be back this week. And, this is a big play threat who's averaging 19 yards per catch and 11.6 yards per target as a rookie. Good matchups in week 14 through 16 against the Rams, Lions, and Patriots.
All right, let's look at two guys also still floating around. Demario Douglas, 50% rostered, and Noah Brown, 19% rostered too, coming off a decent game. Pat, Douglas, kind of a tough one for me because, again, you can stream him this week against Indy, then he's on a bye in week 14, so I don't think I'm chasing him necessarily unless I'm desperate for somebody healthy this week. Noah Brown also, again, more of a floater at this point. So any thoughts on either of those two guys that are still kind of on that bubble?
I'm never real interested in the Demario Douglas, Swandale Robinson types, Joe, the PPR specialists, the guys who, can rack up the catches, but don't ever give you that much in the way of yards and touchdowns. Demario Douglas has 1 touchdown in 26 career games. Just no thanks.
Yeah.
But Noah Brown, quietly over the last 4 weeks, has out-targeted Terry McLaurin by 10 targets. 27 to 17. He leads the Commanders in targets over that span. So he has pretty clearly established himself as the number 2 receiver on a team that doesn't have a lot of depth at wide receiver. I know that we'll see targets to Olamide Zaccheaus and De'Ami Brown from time to time, but Noah Brown seems to be stepping up as the number 2. He's a really good blocker, so they're going to want to keep him on the field a lot. If you're in a pinch, you're probably not going to use him this week with no one on bye. But in week 14, I could see throwing Noah Brown in your starting lineup and feeling okay about getting maybe 7 or 8 points at least out of him.
Do you feel the same way potentially? Well, I mean, here's the thing. Week 14, he's on a bye, so that's not going to help you very much. So that's the one thing there.
My bad.
No, that's okay. But the playoff schedule, New Orleans, Philly, Atlanta. I mean, I don't know if he's got any appeal there. I think Pat's right. I think it's in the deeper league scenarios where, maybe just as a depth piece, you want to have some guys on your roster with some bodies, because if something happened to Terry McLaurin, let's say, and Washington's been figured out a little bit in the last few weeks, maybe Brown's role could continue to evolve, Derek.
Yeah, I actually like Noah Brown as a pickup. I mean, looking at this upcoming week, Tennessee's secondary has not been close to the same with L'Jarius Sneed out. Now he's on the IR, so wheels up for Washington, especially it's pass funnel defense. You cannot run the ball against them. You're going to have to throw it. So really like Noah Brown there. And then after the bye, I mean, yeah, I don't want any part of Philly in week 16, but 15 and 17, he gets the Saints and the Falcons. I mean, we've seen both those secondaries. You could throw for days against both of them. So I like Noah Brown out of this list a lot, actually.
I know initially, we took a hit because we were not chasing JuJu Smith-Schuster. And then he had a game. And everyone's like, what do you see? You guys are idiots. I can't believe you said that JuJu Smith-Schuster was not rosterable. Well, guess what? He's still not. Can we just drop him, everybody? Those people still hanging on. Yes, Derek. Yes, Pat. We can cut everyone loose here. Okay. There we go. So those of you who are wondering, it was 1 week. Get over it. It's done. Stop chasing it.
I think I was the pro JuJu guy on this show, though. I think
you were the most you were pro after the big game where you said, all right, I saw it. And I acquiesce, but you should have held on to your principles, Pat, because you were right. Because it's still just JuJu Smith-Schuster at the
sort of right. I mean, having JuJu at the time, and I did spend fab money that I'm wishing I had back in some leagues. But
I think that's a great show. We should all do that at the end of the year. The one guy we spent too much fab on that we wish we could have had back. That is a segment we're gonna have to bring back in later weeks for sure. I'll make sure I try to remember that one.
I mean, the number one name for everybody is just gonna be Isaiah. Likely week 1. So
I don't know. There's a lot of Carson Steele people out there. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure the Carson Steele money was real at some point. I talked earlier in the show about presents, and another thing that makes a great gift this time of year, and I've got one in my house, is the Skylight Frame. So if you don't have one of these, it's a digital frame. You can upload your photos, and it's an HD screen. It's a really nice looking frame too, where people wouldn't even recognize right away that it's a digital device. And it's a great way to share your family photos, have people in your family upload photos to it. It's a great gift for grandma, grandpa too. Might not be technologically savvy, but it's a great way to give them a bunch of pictures uploaded in one spot, because people sometimes don't have all the room to put all these many pictures of all these moments. Well, you can cycle through all these moments and all these memories using the Skylight Frame. So it's a great offer right now going on as part of our limited time offer to our listeners. Right now, you get $20 off your first purchase of a Skylight Frame. Again, it's a great gift. It's a gift you can give to a significant other. It's a gift you can give to grandparents, parents, everybody. I'm telling you right now, the Skylight Frame is terrific. I've got one. Go to skylightframe.com/fantasy. That's skylightframe.com/fantasy. And you get $20 off your first purchase right now at skylightframe.com/fantasy. And again, a fantastic gift if you're looking, and people sometimes are tough to buy for. This is that one gift that's always perfect and always personal. So I like that. So go check out the latest from Skylight. Let's check out the latest streamers for Thanksgiving week. Games everywhere. 3 on Thursday, 1 on a Friday for Black Friday. Then we got Sunday games. We got college football. Just sit and eat leftovers and watch football all week. That's the idea. Let's start with Derek Brown. Give me a quarterback streamer for week 13.
Well, I want to take the hit. I want to lead us off here, and I'm just going to preface this. It's a bad week to stream a quarterback because the names we're going to bring up here, maybe not great matchups, maybe disgusting names, but we still like fantasy points, and I'm going to bet on the rushing equity of Drake Maye. I'm not telling you that the Colts they've been a good pass defense of the last few weeks, but Maye, we know he's going to run. He's got the weapons to sit here and put up points, so I'm going to roll with him this week.
All right, so Maye for you. How about for you, Pat?
Boy, there's almost nothing after Drake Maye, so I think he's the number one. I mean, like, if you're really in a bind, Cooper Rush has scored 17.4 and 18 fantasy points the last 2 weeks, and like, is it that hard to imagine him being interviewed after that Thursday afternoon game and taking a big bite out of a turducken leg, like as the MVP of that game? Like, I could see it against the Giants. I mean, does their pass defense scare anyone? So
no,
but then again, I think Cooper Rush is going to be starting in like 0.5% of fantasy leagues this week, if that. I can't do an earnest sales pitch on Cooper Rush. Sorry.
You know what? Fantasy points.
I tried to lead it off, Pat. I was trying to let people know how disgusting it is for quarterbacks this week.
Look, fantasy points are fantasy points at the end of the day. You know, it doesn't matter if they're pretty or not. The funniest meme tweet I saw was after Tommy DeVito's performance, the Giants are looking to the waiver wire quarterback and might be looking to a former first-round pick who just was released, Daniel Jones. And I'm just like, that's really funny. Like, that's just a really funny tweet. Every now and then you get a funny one. Every now and then. All right, let's go to the tight ends this week, Pat. Who do you have?
Zach Ertz, 6 catches and a touchdown in each of his last 2 games. No Austin Eckler this week, so you got to figure that Zach Ertz is probably going to have a monopoly on the short area targets for Washington.
Okay, so Zach Ertz could be streamed. Dbro, you're sticking with a theme this week for your streamers. It looks like another Patriot.
Yeah, I like Payne apparently, and we're going with all the Patriots. But Hunter Henry, man, he has been a top tight end, top 12 guy in multiple weeks, especially since Drake Maye has been under center. As well as Indy does give up production. So if Maye's going to see a ceiling through the air, I think it comes on the back of Hunter Henry. Indy versus tight ends allowed the 8th most fantasy points per game and the 10th most receiving yards to the position.
All right, let's stream a defense, Dbro. Who do you have?
All right, well, talking about going against Tommy DeVito, Tommy Cutlets. Got to go with the Dallas Cowboys. I know they have not been pretty, but it's just playing a matchup. We're playing the Giants. The Giants look like a team. Like anybody that saw Malik Neighbors talking about the state of the squad and all that kind of stuff, they've just quit, man. So Dallas, I think, wins this game.
So many sacks too. Like DeVito's gonna get sacked a ton. How about you, Fitzy? Who do you got for a streaming defense?
The Chargers. They're actually a good defense. They're 5th in defensive, 9th in defensive DVOA, 5th in fantasy points per game, and they are facing a slumping Atlanta offense that scored 23 points in its last 2 games, with Kirk Cousins throwing 2 interceptions and taking 6 sacks over that stretch.
And last but not least, or maybe least, the kickers. Fitzy, what do you have?
I'm going to go back to my guy Spencer Shrader on the Chiefs, who kicked the 31-yard game winner as time expired against the Panthers this past week. And he gets another favorable matchup this week. He just faced the Panthers, who've given up the most points to kickers. Now he gets the Raiders, who've given up the 2nd most points to kickers.
There you go. Dbro, streaming kicker for week 13.
I was going to bring up Austin Cyber, but considering when you miss extra points and you cost your team the victory, can't do it anymore. No.
Just came back.
So we're going to go to Tyler Bass. Buffalo Bills going against the 49ers. We see another week of Brandon Allen. I think Buffalo Bills are going to be in the red zone often.
All right, let's get to the top waiver wire ads of the week. Dbro, kick us off here 1 through 5.
All right, number 1 is Ameer Abdullah, just chasing the volume. Number 2, if Keon Coleman is out there, he is number 2 on the list. Devaughn Vele, we talked about for a second. Got a lot of targets. I think he does that again against the Browns this week. Hunter Henry is 4, and Noah Brown, number 5.
All right, Fitzy, top 5 waiver ads for week 13.
Keon Coleman, the most talented player available on waivers this week. He's at the top of my list. Ameer Abdullah, number 2. I have Tank Bigsby, tentatively number 3. I don't know if that's cheating. We didn't really talk about him. He's under 50% rostered in Yahoo leagues. If that is cheating, just slide in Jeremy McNichols for him. I'll go with Zach Ertz at number 4 and Noah Brown at number 5.
There you go, everybody. That's the waiver wire for week 13. Make sure you use the waiver assistant on my playbook and go to fantasypros.com for all of our in-depth waiver coverage to help you make that last run to the playoffs. And we hope everyone has a wonderful holiday and get all your waiver claims in. Do it as soon as possible so you don't have to worry about missing anything, because we got a ton of games going on early this week on Thursday and Friday. That'll do it for us, but the story of the game goes on. For Derek Brown and Pat Fitzmaurice, I'm Joey P. We'll see you next time, kids.